Hi, everyone. Welcome, welcome. My name is Katie Franco. I am the Executive Director of Girl Develop It, and we are so excited to have folks here today and have this amazing panel. I know a lot of folks are joining right now, but we'll go ahead and just introduce GDI for a second, and then we'll turn this over to this amazing panel. Again, so if you're familiar with Girl Develop It and you've been to a bunch of our classes this year or the last 10 years, welcome back. If this is your first class, we're so excited to have you here today. If you don't know about us, Girl Develop It, we're a nonprofit organization whose mission is to provide accessible, welcoming, and high quality software development and other events that go along with that, like this one today, to women and non-binary adults. We've been around for 10 years. We were started back in 2010 by two women who were working in New York City at the time and kept saying, why are we the only two women at these software engineering events? And they decided to start creating some amazing events that were really tailored to women and non-binary individuals who were interested in starting their journey or expanding their journey. Fast forward 10 years, we are extremely virtual these days, as in many organizations are, and we feel very lucky to have that opportunity to continue to serve our community through the virtual platform, since so many people in our community have had big career changes over the past year. We've offered over 75 classes to date, and we've served about 3,000 women and non-binary individuals through our virtual classes. And one of the things that we're really fortunate to have this past year is amazing partners like Elizabeth Lamb and the Computer Futures Group and Break Your Glass Ceiling, who are really been reaching out saying, how can we help? How can we get involved? Can we offer some content? So I'm going to turn this event over and let Elizabeth introduce the panel and talk more about what we're going to do today. Again, you can find us at girldevelopit.com and look at all the classes we have coming up. We've got a bunch of free classes in March. We're really excited about it. We're calling it March Forward, and we want to get more classes to folks to try, experiment, try on some new things, as well as some amazing career content like this class today. So with that, welcome everyone. Elizabeth, I'm going to hand it over to you.
All right. Thank you so much, Katie. Yeah, everyone go check out the Girl Develop It website, sign up for classes, learn lots of new things. But before we get started, I'd like to say thank you to Girl Develop It for welcoming Breaking the Glass into your community. This is the second event we've done with them, and it's been just such a lovely audience and such a great time getting connected with everyone. Just to briefly introduce myself, I'm the Senior Partnerships Manager for Breaking the Glass. We partner with tech companies and nonprofits to provide free, personalized programming on diversity, inclusion, and women's career development topics. But our doors are open to everyone to come listen. We want to make sure it's a very inclusive environment. We try to make sure our programming is as intersectional and welcoming as possible too. And we've provided webinars and events for our partners like Dell, IBM, Charter, Rad Women, obviously Girl Develop It as well. Once I pass it over to Courtney, I'll be including my contact information in the chat. So if you're interested or you're part of another women's career development program, or you're part of a employee resource group at a tech company, we work with a lot of those as well. So feel free to get in touch with me. But yeah, before I pass it over to Courtney to get us kicked off, just a quick reminder that we do like to keep our questions in the Q&A box down at the bottom. So if you float down, the little bar will pop up. So chat your questions in there. And then I'll also be in the chat side panel working along with y'all, dropping resources, and feel free to, give our speakers some love during the event as well. So anyway, I'm going to turn my little box and name off in just a sec, and then, see y'all at the end. So Courtney, over to you.
Of course. Thanks, Elizabeth. Hey, guys. So I am Courtney, as Elizabeth said. I am a part of Computer Futures, and I sit on the Salesforce specialist staffing team in Washington, D.C. So I have been with the company probably for about a year and a half now. And I actually just joined the advisory board for BTG, which has been super exciting. This is going to be my second webinar moderating with them. So I'm very excited for this topic. I think it's honestly like building confidence is so important right now, especially since everyone's virtual and it's a little bit different to kind of portray that to everyone. So yeah, I'm excited to kind of get this started. So Angie, if you can introduce yourself, please. Oh, you're on mute, Angie.
Here we go. Can you hear me now? Okay, thank you. Thank you, Katie, and Elizabeth and Courtney. I'm really glad to be here. So my name is Angie Crackler. I have been spending many years in IT environment, starting from chip development to marketing, sales and marketing services, working in cloud and working with partners. And so most recently, I've been working in the space where we're trying to help our partners to learn the technology and how to implement that technology into helping them improve their customers and supporting their customers' engagements and things like that. So I'm really happy to be here. I've actually had done some workshops a while back ago with some Girls Developer and a few other nonprofit organizations. I think this is very important to have the opportunity to help the next generation to see how we can improve and stay in STEM, right? There's so much we can do, and I'm really happy to be here, and thank you again.
Thank you, Angie. Emma, go right ahead.
Hey y'all, my name is Emma BF. I am a leadership and career coach for women in tech. I am a Salesforce consultant. I am a cat mom and a watermelon lover. So I'm so happy to be here with y'all. Thank you to Elizabeth and to Katie and to Courtney. This is a great event and it's more important than ever because if we learned anything in 2020, there is an illusion of control, y'all. There is an illusion of control in the world, right? And I feel like this topic is really bringing together what can you do? What can I do? What can we do for our own lives, for our own vision? Maybe take away the power that we give other people, other companies, right? For what we want to create in our lives and really own it. So it's amazing to see 34 of y'all in the attendees panel. We can see you, we are here. I'm so excited to hopefully share some tips, tricks, and some inspiration.
Thanks, Emma. You are ready to roll today. I love the energy. I love it. Well, then we'll start off with our first question, and I'm going to pass the first one over to you, Emma. So first one, much of our audience is looking for a career change or to set themselves up for success for their next opportunity. How do you build a habit of self-advocacy so you're ready with the opportunity?
Yeah, self-advocacy, I think, is super interesting. And I'd love to actually hear from the people in the audience. Can you just put in the chat one thing that you struggle with when it comes to self-advocacy? We talked about this yesterday, and something from my experience and the women I work with who are transitioning into tech or they're stepping into leadership, the biggest question is, what do I want? What do I want? Not what other people have said, oh, you should go here and then you should go here and you should do this and then you do this. Self-advocacy starts with knowing thyself, knowing what you want. And so I'd love to see in the chat, what is one thing that you're struggling with when it comes to self-advocacy, because really we're here for you. And for me, it was clarity on that question. Before I stepped into technology, I was in the nonprofit sector. So I was director of operations and corporate partnerships at a mentoring and college access organization in Washington, DC. And when I asked the question, what do I want? It's I want to serve people. That was what I knew. And what I didn't know was what that looked like. And in my head, I had been told my whole life that the way to serve people is being a teacher, being a social worker, or being in the nonprofit space. So that's what I did. I stepped into the nonprofit space. I was like, I hear this is the only way I can help people. So I'm here. And it wasn't until I hit this kind of leadership ceiling within my organization that I came back to, what do I want? I still want to serve people. And guess what? I want to make money. Oh my gosh. It felt like such a taboo topic. I want to make money and I will own it. It's a crazy concept. And it wasn't until I got clear that that was actually something I wanted and something I desired. And what could I bring my experience? What in my experience would create that opportunity for me? And it really took getting clear on what I want, and then asking for support from my squad, from my mentors, the people in my life to say, what options are out there? And tech was the one that I chose to step into.
I love that. No, that I agree with you. It definitely like is kind of a little taboo, but I'm like, you know what? This is the time to talk about it. It's fun. Do you want to go through some of the things that someone talked about? Just so we can, if you wanted to like any that kind of step out to you.
Ooh, I struggle with feeling obsolete. I think that's a big one, right? Again, like who's telling you you're obsolete? And like, are we giving that person power to define who you are? Or do you want to, like, as someone just said, take up space? We're conditioned to not take up space. I love this. Not knowing what I want in a career versus a hobby. I like so many various things. I love that, Jenna. One of the questions is like, how can I do multiple things at once? Like, audacious goal. I can relate so much to helping people. I like technical problem solving, but I also want to help people. I know, Angie, we talked about this and Courtney a little yesterday. I'm working on pivoting to project management role. I'm struggling with being bogged down in my current job and how much I dislike it. I'm trying to make the fuel, create that fuel to move into a new career role and even an industry that I care about. Yeah, so y'all are, it looks like you're already doing it. Like even just saying what's your biggest challenge right now is a path to clarity.
I also think that sometimes just like identifying it and knowing it is a huge step. Because I know it can take a while. And so figuring that out and at least like establishing it's definitely at least like the first step. So that's good that you guys are kind of taking that on. Angie, do you want to talk about any points on how you build it?
So, I mean, as I mentioned before, I've actually changed my careers several times and all totally different. I just didn't change the company, but I stayed within one company. Again, it's like kind of what Emma has said, right? Find that passion. And it's actually okay for you to not know what is it that you want. Sometimes it takes several tries for you to actually like, this is it. This is what I love. This is my passion. And the fact that if you can try to merge your hobby and your work together, that's like the best. Not too many people are able to do that, but I try to pull in some of that. So I love working with the younger generation. So I've tried to do workshops on the side, participate in hackathons. I love to, try different things. So I love working with startups. I started doing this, probably almost over 10 years ago. Initially, it was just kind of like, oh, let me, try it out, check it out, talk to some people. Then I really love it. So I was able to, at one point, have my, get my career to where that's my focus area. But then as time goes, I need to change and I need to grow. So I've changed a different role, but I never stopped that. I did that on my side. So I kept that because that kept me going, kept my passion. When I feel like I'm able to help people, that's really the key. So so that's what I try to do. And networking, I keep telling people, networking, volunteer. A lot of these things I found out about jobs because I volunteer. It's like, I'm interested in that. Let me try it out. And I went volunteer, help out, and then start taking on some additional role. That's how you can see whether or not that's something for you, right? So as Emma also said, she taught to mentor. So I've been a mentor, I've been a mentee. And there's a difference between mentor and sponsor. Everybody could talk about mentor, but you also need that sponsor. So mentor is somebody that can help you, grow, help you to understand yourself, give you some guidance. But sponsor within the corporation is someone that actually can help you navigate, hopefully, of what opportunities out there as they get to know you. So I would definitely recommend everybody to look for a mentor and a sponsor. And try not to find somebody that's within your management chain, because that sometimes will kind of muddy the ground a little bit. So definitely look for somebody that's outside, and find somebody that's a male and a female, because they give you different perspectives as well. So
yeah,
that's actually a really good point. I was gonna say, when you were talking about like just changing opportunities and changing different fields, I mean, I was in the medical field previously, and now I'm working on this. So it's all about just finding that like one thing. And the main thing was that like I loved helping people. And so with both opportunities, it kind of like came, like that was still the one solid aspect of it. So I think it really is all about like finding the passion and like the need under that.
Yeah.
Did you have anything else to add?
Yeah, I'd love to add one more thing on that, because Angie, I'm so glad that you called out the mentor-sponsor distinction. And I want to include one other there, which is a coach. So that's actually what I do. And a coach is someone who you invest in hiring a coach, and it is my job and responsibility to support you from getting from here to here. So oftentimes people will hire me and I'm not being paid by the company. I'm literally like, you're investing in yourself to have someone to help you look up. Because in my experience, as women, we're so good at giving. We're givers, we give, we like pour everything into supporting other people. And we're really good at like bringing people up with us. But then like, who is there to help you tip your head up and be like, what's next for me? Right? And creating that space for you to decide what you want outside, like you said, outside of your management chain, outside of your organization. And really, I mean, to have someone who's solely dedicated to your success was a game changer for me in my career. And the thing that very few people talk about is that a lot of executives have coaches.
Exactly.
It's guaranteed.
Absolutely, Emma, because I think that's more structure, right? You mentor it's kind of like, hey, we get together and, you know, it's very informal. We'll look at, you know, when we have time and stuff, but coach is someone that can really help you get to where you want and help you prepare yourself. So you're right, definitely a coach is a great resource, another one that we need to help you grow your career. So.
We all need a coach like Emma. Bring the energy.
I'm here for y'all. Connect with me.
Okay, so our next question. It's an old saying that you can't grow in your comfort zone. How have you been able to get yourself out of the rut to set yourself for new challenges? Whoever wants to take this, go for it.
Oh, okay. So, well, this is the thing. I always ask myself, so when I started working, I always said to myself that I love to be challenged, right? And I need to make sure that I'm always not too comfortable in something, and I like to learn. And so when I start doing something and I feel like this is getting to be such an oh heck, I can do it in my sleep, then definitely that's a really strong sign to say, okay, time to do something else. And you could be, it's okay sometimes to say, I really love this and really like that, but you should always challenge yourself by adding something to it. So I've been, you know, I try to set myself a goal of 3 to 5 years making a change. And sometimes the change is totally different, like I said before, you know, but some situation, I'm in sales and marketing, I stay there a long time, but I try different roles. So you're still part of, you know, something that you like, but at the same time, you're adding some other responsibility and other challenges. So you still come in and feel like it's refreshing. There's something new. If you're not learning, then that's another sign that you need to leave, because you should always go to a position where you're learning and then you're also contributing. So we all have to learn. I mean, every day I'm learning something new. I learn from my mentees. I learn from my mentors. I mean, it's just in nature, right? And so again, make sure that you're learning and you're able to challenge yourself, because if not, then you're not growing, and then you're going to be left behind, because things are moving so much faster these days. So,
okay. Yeah. And Angie, what I'm hearing in you is like, you've taken on that responsibility for yourself. You're like, yeah, I'm going to go out there and learn. Right. Yeah. And this is what I didn't understand when I started off in my career, is that I was like waiting for someone else to tell me like where to grow. I was just kind of like sitting there and I was like, okay, what's next? And I had this expectation that my manager or my employer like was going to tell me what was next. But I think that's part of the myth, right? Is that in truth, it is 100% your responsibility.
Yeah.
It's 100% my responsibility to go into that growth zone. And the thing that comes with growth zone is fear, right? So like,
Yeah.
if you're looking at something, like maybe share in the chat, what's something that you're like you're like, ooh, I see this and I want it, but it will be scary. Or I see this, I want it, and I don't know how to get there. Like in my experience, this really wanting to take a risk, it bubbles up all of our fear. It bubbles up all of our anxieties. It bubbles up all of these inner conversations we have of like, oh, I don't know how to do this. Oh, I can't do this. Oh, I'm too young to do this. I'm too old to do this. Like whatever those conversations are. And what I work on, because all of this is inner work, right? Is like when I'm, like you said, Courtney, I'm ready to take that next step, but I'm uncomfortable, is I like first have to identify the emotion that's right underneath it. And then ask myself, right? We talked about this yesterday. It's like fear, when in fact, the most successful people take daily risks.
Yes.
Yeah.
You're your worst enemy, right? We always seems to be our own worst enemy. And that's the key thing, is that we always like, I need to be 100% ready before I do it. Well, guess what? If you wait for that, somebody else is going to get that, right? So you got to take that risk, and you need to be out there. And I, even as a manager, I tell my people, I said, you are in charge of your career. We're here to help you. So if you don't give me something, if you don't tell me what it is that you want, I cannot help you, right? And I said, manage your manager. And they look at me like weird. It's like, yeah, manage your manager. Use your manager to help you grow, right? And so, but the thing is that you need to understand what his focus is, or her focus is, and then make sure you help them, and then therefore they help you. So it's all this, we're helping each other. So everybody win in that situation.
And I think my favorite part about, like, of course, it is scary to take risks, but when you do, and you look back like months or like a year later, and you realize like how good of a decision and like risk that was. And I think it kind of sets you up for the next one, being like, okay, it may be like scary, like I'm a little worried about it, but like remember the last risk and like what it brought me. So I think whenever like I go up for that, that's kind of what I think in my mindset of like, okay, well, my last one got me to here, like where can my next one get me? So I think that's a little motivation that I think will definitely kind of help with that. We also have a lot of really good questions, but I'm going to wait for those until the end, just so we can get through all these. Okay. So I promise, guys, I am the senior questions. So our next one, during periods of uncertainty, it can be easy to set your goals aside. What have you done to identify your needs and goals and advocate for support from your family, friends, and colleagues?
Wow. Okay. Well, I just started, I was talking to Elizabeth before this thing started. It's like, I get this, everybody's talking about the Zoom fatigue, right? We're so heads down and trying to get work done that a lot of time we forget about ourselves, about our family sometimes. And so I hate to say it, but sometimes you might have to just really block time and make it kind of official. Block time on your calendar. One of the great things is our companies actually have all these 15 minutes, 30 minutes, and an hour type of activities, whether it's just a brief talk, or we actually have yoga sessions online, or just something talk about, food, nutrition. So I'm like, great, I've been getting a lot of good recipe from that as well. But it just, when they offer something like that, take advantage of it. Right. And it could be that just that 15 minutes, but having that break, that's taking care of yourself. Because if you don't take care of yourself, you can take care of anybody, and you won't actually be your full productive self at work either. So I think that's really the key. And then also ask for help. Like right now, there's so many projects going on, and I decided, you know what, I can't do it all. if I try it, none of them will be good. So I started asking for help, looking at see if somebody has some cycle, collaborate with them, and then see if they can help us, right? And then family should always be like number one. That you need to give them that time. And I said to people, I was like, it's just because you're there doesn't mean you're there. So make sure you give them quality time. And 1 hour quality time means so much more than just physically being there, but mentally, emotionally, you're not there. So focus on quality time for your family.
I want to put like a ton of exclamation points behind like ask for help. I think that sometimes we forget that like, hey, I can just ask. It's so easy, so simple, but yet it's kind of like sometimes our last resort. So no, thank you for bringing that up, Angie. Emma, what would you like to add?
Yeah, I want to share with y'all that I actually started my business during the pandemic. So talk about uncertain times, talk about taking a risk, talk about like not knowing what was going to happen. And I knew I wanted to do it, and everyone was telling me not to do it. Right? Like, we're in the middle of a pandemic. You're going to leave your cushy 9-to-5 job and start your business. But what I realized was that my job was not filling me up. I was getting out of bed and like dragging myself over to the computer. I was not motivated. I was not doing the work. Like, can anyone else relate to that feeling? And it was up to me to make the decision to do it, to start my business, to be committed to doing it, and then to trust that I had the support around me to make it happen. Because there is no way in heck I could have started a business by myself. I leaned on every person in my life who was supportive. That was a key piece. There are people who were not supportive. And guess what? I drew a boundary. I said, that's okay. We may not talk for a few months. That's okay, because really, when I was taking that risk, when you take a risk, when we take risks, we need support. And so it is okay to, there's this great quote by Gabby Bernstein, who is she's a leader in the spiritual community and life coaching community. And she says, like, you can put on your energy cloak and like protect your energy from those who want to drain your energy. And that's what I felt like I do in those big growth points. It's like, tell the people who you love what you're up to and why you care about it. And those who are not on board, it's okay. Like, sure, I took some of them personally because they brought up my own fears. And then there were people I was like, yeah, I think that's your fear and not my fear. And I'm just going to close my cloak and I'm going to say, like, I'll see you in a bit. So that's what supported me, taking the risk, letting people know what I'm up to, and then leaning into and cultivating those relationships with the people who really were there standing with me.
Yeah, I think there's one thing to distinguish between someone that you trust, that give you the honest opinion, that feedback for what you're doing, versus the naysayer, right? The people that's like, no, it's not going to happen. And they, you have a tendency of just like getting that fear even higher when you listen to that. So surround yourself with people that support you, but also make sure you have someone that you can bounce off and give you real advice, because that's really key. Okay.
Yeah, you don't want an echo chamber.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think identifying those people and like even your colleagues at work, of like who will be straight up honest with you. I think having like that kind of support is definitely something that you kind of have to, like, I guess, figure out like first off, and like before you kind of start, I guess, like going through all of that. That makes sense.
Yes.
Perfect. So any last thing on that question before we move on to the next?
No.
Perfect. So sometimes saying yes to too many things can actually limit your opportunities. How can you use boundaries as a tool to advocate for yourself?
Kind of just talked on this.
Yeah, I think we kind of talked a little bit about that, right? Set priorities yourself, your own priorities, and then also look at the business priorities I hate to say it, but you really need to look at when you work on project, look at the priorities, because that's also where people's going to recognize your contribution as well, right? And so, and then ask for help, delegate, because one of the things that people have said to me at one time is that I don't know how to delegate. It's like, yeah, because we have a tendency like, I can do it better, or I have better control. So this is about letting go your control, because you feel like if you do everything, you have control and you know how things are. But sometimes you just don't have the cycle to do that. So you have to learn to trust people, and you have to let go that control. And yeah, it might work out, it might not, but you will never know if you do. And you won't kill yourself either, trying to get everything done.
That is hard for me to hear, because I'm such a control freak. Like, I like to be in control of every little thing, and it's hard. It really is hard to like let go of it, especially if that's like something you're so accustomed to, and it's how you like work best. And when you have to like let it go, it's definitely hard to kind of take that step. So no, I definitely agree with that.
Yeah.
Emma, do you have anything to add?
I think also there's this perception that setting boundaries is hard. Whereas, like, what if we flipped that and said, like, asking for support, saying no can be easy. Because once you get in the habit of it, it's like going to the gym, right? Like, you got to strengthen that no muscle. You get to strengthen that thank you, but that doesn't align with what I'm working on right now muscle, or thanks for that cool project. I actually need you to go talk to my manager because my plate is full right now. Like, all of these muscles you get to strengthen, and then to get to the point where it's actually easy to set boundaries. It's easy to reinforce them, because when you say no for the first time, someone's going to be like, what? Emma just said no. I've never heard that word from her mouth before. And as you say it over and over again, like, you are setting what's normal for the people you work with. So while it can feel hard at the beginning, in my experience, when women practice like 3 to 5 times saying no, people start to hear it. They get it. And guess what? You don't have as many people being like, oh my gosh, Courtney, I need you to go do this right here, right now, because they have seen, experienced, and know that you have boundaries. So it's not only that, you also are then giving yourself permission, and your team, if you're a manager, right? By you setting boundaries, you're giving other people permission to set boundaries. And so, like, sometimes getting out of our own heads and getting out of me, and focusing on the impact is really important, because I have a sense that the women in this room like really care about helping people, like we've been saying, right? So if you care about helping people, it is your responsibility to set your own boundaries so that they themselves feel permission and see the model to do it as well.
Yeah, actually, I have a hard time saying no. People, my kids, everybody say you never say no. and people at work knows that I don't say no. So I totally relate to this one. So I'm learning, I am still doing it, I'm still practicing this. So a couple of things I try to do. Work related, I go to my manager, right? My plates are full, they're getting more stuff. And then I go to them and says, here's what's on my plate. Here's what I believe the priorities are. Can you help me, validate that? And then these are the things that's gonna have to either give it to somebody else, or it might be a lower priority and get done later, right? If people come ask you, I try to say, okay, definitely, this, yes, this is a great idea. I can try to help you, but I'm right now busy working on something. And if you can wait, I can come back and help. Come back in a week or so. I can help you. Or you can say, go ahead and get started, and then I'll try to, give you some highlights or some things and help you in more of a participation role. Because right now there's a couple initiatives I love to be more active, but I know I don't have the cycle. So I started to say, I'll be happy to help, support someone who's gonna lead this. And so that's another way to try to do that. And then also sometimes I would say, oh, I think I know somebody who would love to do this, and they might have the skills or they have the cycle. Then I might try to say, you know what, this is great. And I know so-and-so that's already started something in this area. So maybe they can help you. Let me connect you, right? So you're saying no, but you're not saying no. So hopefully people walk away feeling like, okay, she did help. Maybe not to the extent that I'm trying to do, that I want her to, but I got something. Like, so this is my way of trying to say no. So.
Now I think I need to put setting boundaries on my to-do list today. Thank you.
Give yourself a deadline and then it'll happen, Courtney.
I know, yes. Deadlines, yes. Okay, so our next one we actually already touched on a little bit, but I'll put it out there just in case anyone wants to add anything. So fear of failure is a big reason why many people don't even try for new opportunities. What is some advice you've given to your team to help them conquer these fears?
One question I ask my clients and I ask my team is, okay, you're really good at envisioning the worst case scenario. What's the best case scenario? Just to create that space for you to envision what it will look like to succeed, to win. And I did this for myself when I was starting my business. I would do this when I was leading large technology implementation projects. Like my fear of failure would come up so fast. So I would ask myself, like, what's the best case scenario? Well, best case scenario is I crush this project and I make more money on my bonus this year, right? And I get more confident and I can then work on larger projects and I have good relationships with my clients and I feel happier. It's like, oh. That's been really a supportive question for me, for my clients, and for my teams.
Yeah, actually, I actually went through this. There was early on in my career, I wanted to go into management, and it took a while, and finally an opportunity happened. But it was a situation that was in a critical situation where the client just was not happy with this whatsoever. And so I feel like, is this really an opportunity, or am I going to be a sacrificial lamb? Right. And so I it was like I struggled a little bit about that. And then I decided, I would never know unless I give it a try. And I feel like I can do this. And so I'm going to do it. And if it turns out, not well, then so be it. But I did it. I went ahead and I took out, and then literally the first day they said, you got 30 days to turn this thing around. That's been happening for the last 2 years. And I was like, oh, what did I do? But guess what? I did it and then turned it around and got the recognitions, so hey, that happens, right? But you would never be able to know that unless you take that risk. And so just don't let fear, get the best of you. Think about, do you have the skill set? Do you think you can do it? Because this all boils down to, do you have the skill? And do you know how, that you can succeed, you can make things happen, you know how to do it? Then just take that leap of faith, okay? One of the best advice one of the managers said to me is that, failure, it's okay to fail. It's, you learn from failure. Just make sure that you actually learn from it and don't repeat the same failure, right? And so again, this is the only way we all can grow, is through this, success and the failure.
Oh, just realized I was on mute. No, that's great. I definitely think like talking a little bit more about those, of course we touched on it earlier, like definitely kind of brought new perspective. So before we start our Q&A, we'll get through one last one. So both of you have worked as either a mentor or a coach. What exercises do you use to help other tech professionals identify their goals and ways to reach their dream job?
Well, I think find your passion. What makes you tick? What makes you excited? What makes you want to get up in the morning? What motivates you, right? Understand your own skill set, and you need to do due diligence about that particular responsibility. And I'm not saying that you have to be completely qualified, but you need to make sure you understand that you do have something you can bring to the table, as well as also the opportunity to learn. So that's important, right? The other thing, again, is another advice. It's like, what is the ultimate? I think Emma and I talked about it, right? It's okay to set this high goal, like I want to be a CEO or something. You want to set that high goal. Then you would then help you shape the type of jobs, the type of things that you want to go and to get you there, right? The different experience you need to get you there. So don't just look at the next job. At the minimum, look at the job after that. And then once you know what that is, then you'll be able to know what is the next job that you should go into, right? Due diligence, find out, talk to people in that group, those area, so you really know what the requirements are. That will also help you prepare for it.
Yeah, I love that. Like, start off with the end in mind. One question to ask yourself is, if I waved a magic wand, what would my life look like? And encouraging yourself, allowing yourself, giving yourself permission to not just dream about the job, but about the life that you want, right? Because work does not get to be your life. I coach the whole person. I want you to dream about the relationship that you're in, the house you're living in, how much money you're making, right? Like all of these different things, so that I can step out of just this narrow box. Like, has anyone just felt like they've been put into a box? And I had that when I was in the nonprofit sector. It's like, well, you want to help people, you got to stay in this box, right? And it wasn't until I allowed myself to dream about all the money I was going to make that I allowed and welcomed in new job opportunities that paid way more than what I was making. And that's the piece that, like, we don't often talk about. And again, especially what I see for women in tech, we're out there looking for the jobs that already exist, and know that within tech, there's a ton of opportunity for you to create your own role. By what Angie said, identifying your skill sets, getting clear on what you actually want to be doing in your day-to-day, and then creating a role around it. Because at the end of the day, companies are working to retain you. It's going to cost a company way more for you to leave that company and for them to hire someone else to replace you than it will cost for them to retain you. So you actually have more power than you might think. That you can create your own role and bring that to your manager and say, this is where I'm looking to go. Who do you know in the company who think could, benefit from this experience? Or is there an opportunity on this team? Because this is, it's 2021, y'all. Creativity is the name of the game. Taking your career by the horns and declaring what you want, and then being committed to making it happen. That is how this works. And this is how you can create the role that you want.
Yeah, if your manager doesn't know what you want, they can't help you, right? This comes back to also the networking and the volunteer, because that gives you insight into other groups and other people who can, in turn, become your advocates, because they know you worked on a project together. Even it might be a volunteer, but they know you from that. And so they're like, hey, yes, I have an opportunity. Would you be interested? I have a manager that we worked on a project together, and then ever since then, so every time she had an opportunity, like, you'll be perfect for it. So she's been like coming after me, like, hey, would you like to be interested in that? That's great. I was not looking. A few times I changed, and sometimes I say no. But again, use that networking, the volunteers, and letting your manager know. Manage your manager. Remember what I said, to help. And also, don't fall into the stereotype also, because sometimes, excuse me, people have a tendency to try to stereotype. I got stereotyped from the very beginning. When I decided to go get my engineering degree, my family says, that's not for girls. What are you doing? You know, go to econ, you know, maybe computer science. Well, guess what? I was like, nope, this is what I want. This is what I like. So I did it, right? But so don't let people stereotype yourself, and you need to stand your ground. And when you come to a meeting, I would tell you for years, I would be the only female in the room. And guess what? Doesn't matter. I speak up, I do things as an equal. I'm not there to say I'm a female. I'm there to say I'm a peer of you. We're colleagues. We're working on a project. We all contribute. So as long as you treat it that way, then nobody will try to stereotype you.
And if they do, that's a reflection of them.
Yes, exactly.
Not you.
Perfect. Do you guys have anything else to add to that before we go on to some questions?
No.
Perfect. Okay. If anyone else has any more questions, just remember to put them in the Q&A box. I actually wanted to start. I did have a question for you guys that I thought would maybe be helpful. So, I mean, during this time, everyone's virtual. Everyone's like pretty much working from home still. How have you guys seen, or you guys yourself been able to, I guess, like display that self-confidence and self-advocate over like video chat or like virtually?
I don't know. I think for me, it really hasn't changed much because of my job. I was traveling quite a bit. I was traveling to Asia, Pacific, other locations. And a lot of my time has been more like either mobile or virtual. And so this hasn't really changed that much. And it's just the fact that I don't get to travel as much as before. So always what I try to do is making sure that you keep your management, knows what's going on, the ongoing update. You need to set, so I tell everybody, set that time, that one-on-one with your manager. Don't wait for them. Sometimes they get so busy, bogged down on business that they don't remember to set it up. You need to set that one-on-one with them. And you need to set it where there will be time to talk about business. There should be time to talk about you so that they recognize that, right? So you don't, just because you're virtual and not in person, it shouldn't matter. So the key thing is, take that ownership and make sure that you steer the conversation that can help you.
Perfect. Emma, do you have anything to add to that one?
Yeah. So I supported people making the transition from in person to online. So I think it's a great question, Courtney, and it's different. One of the things I just wrote down is intention is so much more critical in the virtual space. And what that looks like is being super intentional, like Angie said, about calendaring in check-ins with your manager. The calendar is everything in a virtual world. So ensuring that whether it's a weekly touch base and more importantly, quarterly reviews, right? I get that not every company has performance structures set in place. And if you do, you may have an annual review, a quarterly review coming up. You totally get to be intentional and ask for a conversation before your quarterly review with your manager to get clear on what you are going to be asking for. And that intentionality with your manager is really important. Intentionality of what virtual spaces you're in, right? Because you can be in like 100 different Zoom rooms at any given time, right? It is up to you where you're showing up and how you're showing up. There are definitely Zoom rooms that I show up, I am video off, I am mute, I am cooking dinner, I'm lying on the ground because I don't want to look at another screen again. But it's because I have intentionally made the decision to do that. If you are in a Zoom room with people who you look up to, people whose job you want, not like taking their job, but like you want to be in the role that they're in, right? You get to be intentional about your participation in that space. You get to be intentional about following up with people. I cannot stress how powerful follow-up is. If like at the end of this, Angie and I have a bunch of LinkedIn requests and you do not put in the note who you are or where you saw us, I don't know about you, Angie, but I'm like, I don't know who this person is or where they came from.
Yeah.
But if you're intentional in your outreach and you say, hey, I saw you at the Breaking the Glass and Girl Development webinar. I loved that your point about ba, ba, ba. Here's where I need support. Oh, okay, now I can actually help you, right? And I remember that you took that initiative and were proactive to reach out. So again, intentionality, being proactive, being very clear about what spaces you're in and what you want to get out of it.
Perfect. So our next question, how do I find a sponsor? Do I just ask them?
You know what? Yes.
She's like,
Yes, you know, people can always say no, but people, believe it or not, people will actually say yes. But make sure. I actually had well, sponsor is one thing, mentor is another, right? So sponsors is a tough one. Some sponsor, I think it really has to be aligned to see the person probably needs to know you a little bit and look at the skill set, and then kind of have that conversation. And that's a little bit more a formal thing. Mentors is one where there'll be situations where I reach out to someone and we talked about it. It doesn't look like they have the similar background. And so we said, I don't think this is a fit. So let me introduce you to somebody else who might be a fit, who might, have the experience and might be able to help you navigate a little bit better. So I think mentors are easier. Sponsor, it will be a tough one. But again, it's all about working with that person, whether, this one in particular probably have to do some volunteering and then work on together on some projects so they really understand you and know your capability. So sponsor is a little bit tougher one, but definitely something that you should try to strive for. But again, if you're like a technical, you're a developer and then you're asking someone from a project management side to be a sponsor, they're gonna like, what is that? I don't really know you. I'm not sure you worked on a project together. Let's find that opportunity before they were willing to actually say yes to being a sponsor. Okay.
oh, there we go. No, that was great. I want to get to two more really quickly. One, just very quickly for Emma, do you provide coaching sessions?
Yes, of course. I'll drop in my contact information on email. You can feel free to reach out on email or LinkedIn. I do career coaching sessions. I also have been doing more negotiation sessions. So let's say you have a job offer on the table and you're like, I don't know how to negotiate this. We can set up a one-on-one, and it is so fun to support women to get $10,000 more. That's the number. I don't know what's happening. Women just keep asking for it and we're getting 10K every time. It's a lot of fun.
I love it.
Thanks for the question.
So last one really quickly. What are different risks as women and people of color and different impacts?
I'm not sure. I think, there was one of the managers actually gave me a good advice. I think in my first job, because when I joined the team, I told him, I said, I want to be in management, but I want to make sure that, I should be there. And I don't want to get there because of all the, who I am, my emails and all the stuff. And he said something that really, hit hard with me. He's like, if people's going to use that, not so much against you, but if that people's going to use that, why wouldn't you use that as part of your advantage? Because if you don't take that opportunity, you won't be able to show them that you deserve to be here. This is what he said to me. And so ever since then, I don't think I experienced anything, really that it's because of, who I am and stuff. It's really more boils down to mostly because of whether it's a skill set or knowledge or experience. Emma, do you have anything that you have experienced?
Well, listen, I'm a white woman, so I don't experience racism in that way. But there is 100% different risks for women, people of color, LGBTQ community, people with disabilities, which are harder to see or understand in this virtual world. I mean, there are risks. And part of the problem is that we have toxic cultures. We do not have fully empathetic cultures. And in tech, the problem is real. There are issues that women and people of color are facing every single day. If you are part of a marginalized community, you are going, it's so sad that it's in some ways inevitable. And there are things we can do. This is really where doing inner work is so critical, because there are all of these stories that are being told to people from marginalized communities. You're not good enough. You're not smart enough. You'll never make the money. You'll never be a manager. You'll never be a CTO. Like all those different things, they can weigh on you. And it is up to us as leaders to rewrite that narrative and to create systems of support and to create professional development opportunities for people to step into this. So yes, are there different risks? 100%. For anyone who has ever had to code switch, which is a term to describe that you change your language, you change the way you talk, though you change the way you act as a mechanism for survival and to feel psychologically safe in a workplace. I mean, that is not something that a lot of rich white men have to do.
Yeah.
Right? And
that's so true.
And there
Yeah.
are resources to support. And this is really why having a strategic network of support is so critical. This is why knowing your worth and advocating for it is so critical. And it's also critical to know that if you're in a toxic environment where you do not feel safe, you do not feel heard, you do not feel valued, knowing, especially in tech, there are a million jobs out there.
Now, I've been lucky that I haven't had to experience as much of that, but I totally see it. I mean, this is something we've been talking about. We actually have an initiative that we've been talking and really focus on this, right? We want everybody to be able to be themselves. We want everybody to be able to, be treated equally. We have to, focus on ourselves sometimes to make sure we're not, we're also there advocating. Right, so we have allyship. We have all these things together to really help people and give them a place to speak up. If they have some concerns, we want to make sure that they feel comfortable that they can bring that up, and it doesn't have any negative impact whatsoever for them. So this is very important. The tech space, yes, I do see some of that, and when I mentioned I work with startup, I'm so frustrated that even to this day, 10 years later, there's still more male startup CEOs, founders than female, right? And we're trying to help that. So I work with, organizations that focus on helping the female startups. So be an ally, and making sure that you don't just stand by. If somebody says something, call them out. That's one of the things that we talk about quite a bit. Is that maybe you're not doing it, but if somebody else you see are doing it, you need to call them out, and you need to make sure that they don't do that, and make sure that they know that what they're doing is not acceptable, right? And creating that really safe space for everyone.
Perfect. Thank you guys for that. So I know that we are coming up on our time, so I'm going to let Elizabeth close this out, but usually we'll type up these answers and have Emma and Angie both we can send out an email with those answers to the other questions. Anything else, just let us know in the chat box or Q&A box, sorry.
Perfect. Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Courtney. That was pretty much what I also I try to end every webinar with, is just that friendly reminder that, one of the benefits of the webinar is we can just continue this conversation over email. We've sent through the LinkedIn, we've sent through resources. Get involved with our communities. If you're from the Breaking the Glass community, get involved with Girl Develop It as well. If you're from Girl Develop It, come check out what we have going on with Breaking the Glass. And Angie and all our speakers and things like that, thank you so much for joining us and helping us out. And we had such a lovely time with y'all this afternoon. The session also was recorded. So I'll send that out in a follow-up if you're just like, you know what, my mind was blown today. I got to share this with all my other colleagues and coworkers and everyone that I talk professional development with. So again, thank you so much and have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thank you. Thank you for all the great questions.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.